In this video, we're going to go over page 96, 98, 100, 101, and 102. On page 96, why do you think most people in the South Pacific live near the ocean? People in the South Pacific live on islands and are naturally surrounded by the ocean. Inland regions of those islands could also be less habitable, desert, rainforest, or mountains. In Australia, the large populations mainly live by the coast, especially on the east coast. In the middle of Australia, it is very hot, arid desert and not very great to live in. Now, if you take a look at New Zealand, a lot of people live by the coast as well because the middle of the islands are dominated by mountains. Page 98. Map skills. Compare this map with the population density map on page 96. How do you think the physical features influence where and how people live? The areas of greatest population are along the coast and where the land is fertile and fairly flat and suitable for agriculture. Fewer people choose to live in the desert areas. The desert area of Australia is very sparsely populated. It'd be almost similar to our Arctic tundra regions in Canada. And that's primarily due to it being primarily all desert. In the same way, in the interior of New Zealand, it is very sparsely populated and dominated by mountains. Page 100, map skills. How have the climate conditions in Australia and the Pacific Islands influence human settlement? With those areas, they have a maritime and subtropical climate in Australia and the Pacific Islands, which would be more attractive for people to live in. Most Australians, in fact, live in the country's mild east coast. Fewer people live in the central part of Australia. And then on the Pacific Islands, people live mainly in small villages on high islands. Graph skills on page 101. What might be some reasons why different subregions have different levels of urbanization? So if you take a look, Melanesia would be more rural because it is a high island. It is formed from a volcano and has more fertile soil, which supports agriculture. Polynesia and Micronesia would be more urban because they are low islands and the land is poor and sandy. Question number 2, compare the graphs with the photograph. What does this photograph tell you about the population density of the Pacific Islands? Melanesia includes New Guinea and Indonesia. Those islands are more densely populated. Micronesia is more sparsely populated. Page 102, what do you think? How could the governments of Canada, New Zealand, and Australia support and improve the lives of Indigenous peoples? I'd really be interested in hearing what you guys said on this question. Some things you could have in it is promoting autonomy for Indigenous peoples, promoting knowledge of their traditional values, cultures, recognize the shared colonial history in between Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal people, support Indigenous leaders and youth in education programs, sponsor anti-racist education programs, promote language education, health, justice, promote traditional activities and essentially give the people their own autonomy, let them make their own decisions for themselves.